first day that I saw Star Wars, I was one of those people, along with my wife Cheryl, that saw it and immediately went back and got into the 2-hour line again to see it right away. And we saw it twice on the first day, and it was just this transformative, mind-blowing cinematic experience. And I called George, and he said, well, unfortunately, we only got maybe 30–40% of what I really wanted there.
I'll never forget seeing Star Wars for the first time. I was in film school, and it was like, I was there on opening weekend at the Chinese theater, standing in line for 6 hours, and the way that that film entertained an audience was unlike any film in history.
To the world-famous Chinese theater come the stars of the biggest box office success in motion picture history.
I think the success of Star Wars opened the doors for a whole series of genres of film that hadn't been done before because people simply couldn't figure out how to make the images.
ILM was born out of sort of a rebirth of the beginning of cinema, which is to say, it's all a trick. And we're in the business of, we're the tricksters.
The historic success of Star Wars allowed George Lucas to establish a filmmaking center outside of Hollywood. He relocated to Marin County, Northern California, and eventually built Skywalker Ranch. ILM would set up shop in the nearby town of San Rafael, inhabiting a nondescript building known as Kerner Optical, their home until 2005. They immediately began work on the next Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back.
All in all, the real impetus of ILM was to keep a core group of creative people and the highly technological environment they needed functioning.
While ILM continued to push the boundaries of photochemical effects, George Lucas could see the potential for an entirely new way of creating cinema magic.
In the same way George had so much vision about marrying computers to cameras and optical printers, he felt that there were probably ways to create all of the kinds of things he did in Star Wars in the computer. He felt there were ways to do editing with computers. He thought there were ways to create and manipulate music with computers. And those three things led him to start the Lucasfilm Computer Graphics division that he hired Ed Catmull to start.
I was asked to bring in technologists and computer scientists and wizards of various sorts to bring this into this industry.
Among PhD student Ed Catmull's early advancements in computer technology was the ability to create smooth curved surfaces and wrap textures around them. This was a pioneering leap in the rudimentary world of computer graphics, known as CG.
I think their charter was to make a system that might be able to make images, ultimately images on the film that looked photoreal.
And in the process of that, the Apple came out, and Dennis Muren had said, gee, could I take 6 months off and just learn how to use this Apple? So he was the one that first put his foot in the water and learned what the Ed and the guys were doing. And then that started the link so that I could transfer the technology that the computer division was developing over into ILM, which is where it was meant to be.
It was a very risky thing, certainly, for George to fund this, and also very visionary because it all really did pay off.
Today's powerful computer-generated imagery owes its roots to this early CG group, who by 1982 were able to prove their various skills to create a sequence in Star Trek, Wrath of Khan. While developing hardware and software, they spent 5 months advancing texture mapping, motion blur, digital matte painting, and compositing programs to create the first visual effects shot made in the computer for a motion picture.
It was mind-blowing for the time. And now, of course, it looks old-fashioned. But it was part of earning the way in.
And the minute Dennis Muren saw the types of things that could be done in computer graphics, it led to Dennis using computer graphics to create the stained glass man in Young Sherlock Holmes.
Dennis came over to us and said, why don't we try it in computer animation? And this was very innovative and very forward-thinking. It was really exciting. I mean, it was a lot of work because back in the day we didn't have the tools. I literally had to take the footage and project it onto my computer screen, and I animated the camera move by hand. I don't know if I've ever worked harder on 6 shots in my life, but it was worth it, because when Young Sherlock Holmes came out, people who worked in the special effects industry had no idea how it was done.
The Stained Glass Knight was the first computer-generated character in a motion picture, and the film was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, a testament to the growing impact of computer technology. Ilm's work in stop-motion animation and optical effects would advance further into the digital realm with George's next movie, a fantasy epic he asked Ron Howard to direct.
Dennis Murin called George and I over to his office there at ILM, and he said, we're beginning to use computers to work with film digitally, the first time I ever, heard that phrase used, to sort of blend film images. So there was this one transformation that we needed to make in the movie. I assumed we'd have to do it the way werewolf transformations had always been done, with dissolves, cuts, and he thought we could do it in one shot, which was a really interesting notion to me. And he said, I can't guarantee it's gonna work, but, it just might. And it was the first morphing shot ever done. And it really was more like the kind of magic that you see on stage, where there's no camera trickery, it just happened. And of course, there was so much technology behind it, and it was all breakthrough stuff. That was amazing for me.
By the late 1980s, the computer was threatening the analog ways of old. The Lucasfilm Computer Group had developed an astounding array of tools that remain today's industry standard. The first digital editing system, the first digital audio editing system, a film laser scanner, and a powerful graphics computer for digital compositing and high-resolution imagery. The Pixar Image Computer and its processing software called RenderMan enabled the group to create a breakthrough computer-animated short film, Andre and Wally B, which inspired them to pursue their far-off goal of a full-length animated feature film.
At the time, as the vagaries for finance come up and down, George realized he couldn't afford all of this because there were so many things going on. And so we had some meetings with George, and we said, well, we really want to make an animated film. And he said, well, that's not what I want to do now. He wanted the technology. So we started down the path of selling off the group to be a separate company, which is what became Pixar.